Roads have existed for about 6,000 years, or arguably even longer depending on how you define a road. The earliest roads were little more than dirt trails with trees and large rocks cleared out of the way to better allow the transport of pack animals. As for paved roads, those date back to 4000 BC in now modern-day Iraq. With the invention of wheel transport, paved roads became important to support heavier vehicles. While the technology used to pave roads and the vehicles travelling upon them have both advanced a long way over the millennia, the necessity of building roads to travel from point A to point B is no less important. As a result, people have built some truly dangerous roads to facilitate travel between locations. Today we'll be looking at 4 of them. Sitting atop Tianmen Mountain in China is a naturally formed stone arch known as Tianmen Cave. It is the highest such arch in the world, which has earned it the nickname the Gateway to Heaven. And there are a few different ways to scale the mountain to visit the arch in person. First, there are cable cars that can take people up the mountain, giving them a bird's eye view of the beautiful scenery. For those who prefer more of a challenge, there's also the Stairway to Heaven. This stone staircase features 999 steps, and that number is no accident. The number 9 in China is considered lucky. Because it's the largest single-digit number, it is believed to symbolize longevity, happiness, and luck. But the third way the tourists could seek to reach the peak of the mountain is Tongtiang Avenue, a road also known as 99 Bends to Heaven. The name derives from the 99 hairpin turns that the road makes, just one of many features that make the road considered one of the most dangerous in the world. Not only is the narrow road full of sharp turns, it is also very steep. This probably seems obvious since the road literally scales a mountain, but it is a major contributing factor to just how dangerous it is. Though there are jersey barriers lining the road to prevent cars from careening off the edge, there are reasonably large gaps between these barriers as well. It's not just the design of the road itself that makes this so dangerous either. The area is known for frequent heavy rains, resulting in slippery pavement that makes navigating the road even more dangerous. There is often thick fog covering the road as well, resulting in reduced visibility. And with an altitude of over 5,000 feet above sea level, the thinner air causes dizziness and fatigue for drivers who aren't used to the elevation. However, while the 99 Bends to Heaven is known as an extremely dangerous road, driving fatalities are very rare. This is because the vast majority of traffic on the road is in the form of tourist buses with experienced drivers. That said, there is one noticeable instance of a civilian dying on this road in the least safe way possible. The mountainside road is 11 kilometers in length, that's 6.8 miles, and in 2018, Italian driver Fabio Barone set the record for completing the drive in his Ferrari 458 in just 10 minutes and 31 seconds. Of course, it was pretty easy to set this record because there was no previous speed record, and at 1 kilometer per minute, or about 37 miles per hour, it wasn't actually terribly fast. It certainly doesn't seem like a speed that would require a Ferrari. But since Barone is an incredibly experienced driver with a number of daring speed records to his name, this seemingly leisurely speed should demonstrate just how dangerous China's 99 Bends to Heaven is to navigate. The R504 Kolyma Highway extends just over 2,000 kilometers, that's 1,260 miles, from Magadan in the Russian Far East to Yakutsk in Siberia. To many locals, it's simply known as Trassa, or the Route, and it is the only road in the area, so there's no need to differentiate it from the others. However, Kolyma Highway has a much darker name as well: the Road of Bones. Construction of the highway began in 1932 and ran all the way to 1953. The entire time, the construction was being performed by prisoners of the gulags. These prisoners were deliberately worked to death, and it is believed that over 250,000 prisoners died making this highway, with some estimates putting the number even as high as 1 million. Though not confirmed, it is widely believed that the bodies of prisoners who died during construction were buried beneath the road. The entire length of the Kolyma Highway was built atop permafrost, so it has been argued that it would simply have been easier to bury the dead as part of the road than trying to dig separate holes for them. But the road wasn't just dangerous for the people building it. The highway is unpaved, and sharp rocks littering the road are a major hazard that could cause punctured tires. There are no service stations along the highway, so unless the driver is able to repair the tires themselves, they'll be stranded. And seeing as the highway extends into Siberia, you can guess how dangerous being stranded on this road is in the winter. And that's a very real risk, as winter in the region lasts for 10 months, with an average winter temperature of about -50 Celsius or -60 Fahrenheit. In fact, the coldest temperatures ever recorded outside of Antarctica are along the Kolyma Highway. Some sections of the road require driving across frozen and rivers, though many motorists have lost their lives when it turned out that the rivers they were driving on weren't quite yet as frozen as they believed them to be. However, while driving thousands of kilometers across icy roads in such extreme cold seems incredibly dangerous, and it turns out that the winter is actually the safer time to travel along the highway. In July and August, when the road isn't iced over, things actually get much worse. If the weather is dry, vehicles traveling along the unpaved roads kick up massive clouds of dust and sand, creating whiteout conditions for anyone traveling behind them. The lack of visibility can result in cars driving off the road or into oncoming traffic. The summer months are rarely dry though, and the roads are usually soaked either by rain or runoff from melting ice floes and rivers. This turns the road into a muddy quagmire from which cars often can't escape. When the road is muddy, it's common to see traffic jams extending for 100 kilometers or more thanks to those who got trapped in the mud. During the brief period of summer, those stranded on the road have to contend with wildlife hazards that are not present in the winter months. The most obvious threat is the abundance of hungry bears roaming the wilderness, though bear attacks on humans are particularly common. Less noticeable but far more dangerous to humans are ticks carrying encephalitis. This is particularly dangerous given how remote the highway is and the lack of medical facilities. Fortunately, travelers are now able to skip the most dangerous section of the Colima Highway. In 2008, the highway officially became a federal road and received some upgrades, including a new path that bypassed a 420-kilometer section. The previous section had been renamed Old Summer Road. Old Summer Road receives very little maintenance, and half of it has been entirely abandoned. The road now features collapsing bridges and areas that are reclaimed by rivers in the summer. For fans of needlessly dangerous adventures, the Colima Highway and especially Old Summer Road are seen as a bucket list item, somewhere that absolutely has to be visited. Just remember that you can't drive a standard car down the highway, as only off-road motorcycles and 4x4s are capable of traversing it. BR-116 is the longest and most important highway in Brazil, extending over 4,500 kilometers or 2,800 miles. And with a highway that long, it's safe to say that not all of it can be inherently dangerous just because of the terrain. Much of the terrain itself is fine, and in recent decades, large sections of the highway were duplicated. This is just a fancy way of saying that they made the highway wider and added a median to prevent head-on collisions from traffic traveling in opposite directions, which is nice. That said, there are stretches of the road that are dangerous for the traditional reasons one might expect. The section of BR-116 connecting to Pau, da Serra, and Curitiba is officially named Rodova Regis Bittencourt, but is better known as Rodova de Morte or the Highway of Death. This area of the highway runs dangerously close to steep cliffs, and terrible weather conditions often result in accidents. But there are several reasons that this road is so dangerous that may not be so obvious from a glance. While the danger on many roads is related to how the road was designed, for BR-116, much of the danger comes from people on the road. Most notably, the highway is packed with long-haul truckers. On the Highway of Death, these trucks make up 60% of the total traffic on the road. This causes a lot of wear on the roads, and despite the recent duplication of the roads, they're still notorious for being poorly maintained. Not only are the trucks damaging the road itself and making it more dangerous, but the truckers work long, grueling hours, resulting in a bunch of massive big rigs being driven by tired, overworked drivers. Numerous studies have shown that driving while exhausted is just as dangerous as driving while intoxicated, and many of these truckers are doing both, as drug use is one of the most common ways that long-haul truckers around the world attempt to stay alert. According to a study from 2017, the vast majority of Brazilian truckers drive over 9 hours each day. 2/3 use amphetamines while driving to stay alert, and an astonishing 91% drink alcohol on the job. However, it's not just overworked and intoxicated truckers whose heavy big rigs destroy the pavement that make the road dangerous. Even if the physical road itself was perfect and the weather was beautiful and clear every day, there's one other danger lurking on BR-116, and that's gangs. It's well known that police virtually never patrol the highway, so drivers may fall prey to roaming gangs and ambushes set up by armed bandits. And if all of that wasn't enough, the highway is also the most active road in the world for child sex trafficking. Along the full length of BR-116, there are over 260 locations where children are known to be sold, which is almost one every 10 miles. Some of these children are victims of kidnapping, while others are sent there by their own parents to earn money so the family can buy food. It all goes to show that it isn't just climate and topography that can make a road dangerous. Those are factors on BR-116 as well, but there's a whole lot more going on here. It's reported that in total, there are thousands of deaths on the highway each year. While there are a lot of dangerous roads, there can only be one most dangerous. And in 1995, the Inter-American Development Bank gave that distinction to North Yungas Road in Bolivia. What makes a bank's opinion on the matter hold so much weight is a little bit nebulous, but there are few who would disagree that this is truly the most dangerous road in the world. The road was built in the 1930s, mostly by Paraguayan prisoners during the Chaco Wars. It was built to connect the capital of La Paz, located high in the Andes Mountains, with the Yungas region of Bolivia. The Yungas region is a subtropical region connecting the mountains to the Amazon, and a road connecting La Paz and Yungas was important because of the natural resources located within the region. Specifically, those resources were gold and white gold, also known as cocaine. Stretching 64 kilometers or 40 miles and descending 3,500 meters or 11,500 feet across that path, the journey across North Yungas Road is as long as it is treacherous. The road is narrow, with some sections only being about 3 meters wide. That's the minimum width of a single lane of highway traffic, and cars would have to pull over and wait at wider sections of the road if there was traffic coming in the other direction. Although Bolivia, like all sensible countries, uses right-hand traffic, Yungas Road uses left-hand traffic so that drivers can more accurately gauge how close they are to the edge of the mountain. This is incredibly important because if a car heads too far in that direction, it will fall straight off the mountain. There are virtually no guardrails along the entire length of the road. Instead, the roadside is littered with makeshift tombstones and memorials to all of the people who perished by falling off the mountain, and that was an all too common experience. From the time that it was built until the mid-1990s, an average of 200 to 300 people die each year in vehicles that fell off the road. Locals referred to it as Camino de la Muerte, or the Road of Death. While a steep, narrow, winding road with no guardrails would already be dangerous, there's so much more to make this road as unsafe as possible. The road is frequently covered in fog, making it difficult to see, and constant rain leaves the unpaved gravel road muddy and slippery. Even if it hasn't rained, there are a number of waterfalls leaving sections of the road permanently slick. But even if a driver is being as careful as they can possibly be, it may not matter, as unpredictable landslides can sweep a vehicle over the edge of the cliff. And if all of that wasn't enough, the road is also uneven and full of potholes. Fortunately, an alternate route was finally constructed in 2009 so that travelers would no longer need to rely on the Road of Death to travel from La Paz to the Yungas region. The new road is paved, 2 lanes wide, and features guardrails and a drainage system to keep the road from flooding. But despite the existence of this safer route, tens of thousands of tourists still visit Bolivia to travel on the Yungas Road each year. In 2011, 2 years after the alternate route was built, there were still 114 accidents, resulting in 42 deaths. Not all accidents involve large vehicles either, as dozens of cyclists are known to have fallen off the cliff as well. Although some would argue that North Yungas Road no longer deserves the title of most dangerous road in the world since it's no longer a mandatory route, the ever-growing pile of corpses on the side of the mountain seems to suggest that the road is no safer today than it was in the 1930s.